I would love to welcome everyone to this morning's UUCD Forum on Make Home for a Better Place with Jeff Corey, Executive Director of Duluth's One Roof Community Housing. One Roof Community Housing is a nonprofit organization committed to enriching lives and communities one home at a time, and it is UUCD's Woven Basket recipient for the month of October. So this morning, Jeff's going to tell us all about what they're up to and what our donations are being put to good use with. And with that, the floor is yours, Jeff, and we look forward to learning and uplifting all your important work.
Well, thanks very much. It's a pleasure to be with you folks today. And I'm joined by Mika, the 16-year-old lab husky mix in the background, and Stella, the black wiener dog, is upstairs right now, but she might jump in the chair sometime during the, don't be frightened, she won't hurt me. So they've been my COVID work companions, which has been interesting, as it has probably been for all of you. So thanks for the opportunity to speak with you today. One of the things we say at One Roof, we've got sort of a few slogans that we use to remind ourselves of our mission and our work, and to kind of keep our compass set. And one of those things is everyone deserves a home, everyone deserves choices. And that line comes from our mission and from our value statements, and really gets at the heart of sort of why we do what we do. And again, really happy to be here with you all today and to share a bit about our work. So One Roof was formed in 2012 through the merger of Neighborhood Housing Services and Northern Communities Land Trust. And I came to work for the Land Trust about 23 years ago. So I've been at it for a while, but we believe that if we join forces with the two organizations, we would be able to create a more effective and productive and resilient organization that would result in getting more work done for the community. And so the boards and memberships of those two organizations voted in the fall of 2011 to combine and become One Roof. At the Land Trust at that point in time, Dick Freiberger, who I believe was pretty active with the Unitarians, was our board chair. And so he helped guide us through that merger process, which was taxing, but rewarding, and ultimately a really good thing for the organizations and the communities. So the mission statement of enriching lives and communities one home at a time, you know, we make home a better place in a lot of different ways, but everything that we do sort of ties back to, does this make home a better place for someone? And so we provide housing development services. We make loans for lower income people to help fix up their homes. We do down payment assistance. We do education and counseling to help folks get ready to buy a house. But all of that work results in helping lower income folks have a home of their own and or to have their home be improved. We believe that results in stronger communities. And we also understand very clearly that the housing market is kind of broken, frankly. It just doesn't work for everybody in a community, and especially doesn't work for lower income people. If it did, One Roof wouldn't need to exist. And so we're here to sort of try to fill in those gaps where the market doesn't work, and to try to create products and services to help everybody have a good home and a good place to live, because that makes the community stronger again. So through the collective work of the two organizations before the merger and after the merger, we've accomplished quite a lot, including the creation of 315 permanently affordable community land trust homes. We've created those in a variety of ways. We've done some buyer-initiated homes where folks picked out homes and we did renovations to them after they bought them. We've built a lot of the homes, and we've acquired and renovated homes and then sold them. Those homes exist largely in Duluth, but also in Proctor, Cloquet, Hermantown, Two Harbors, and we have 10 now in Grand Marais that we finished a couple years ago. Those homes, as I mentioned, are permanently affordable, so we've stewarded the resale of 190 of those homes. So because we, you know, do our primary homeownership work through the community land trust model, we are able to sort of preserve that funding, and every time one of those homes resells, it's for the benefit of another lower income family. So we've recycled over $10 million in subsidies through those resales, and on average, the sellers have left with almost $15,000 in equity to put toward their next housing situation. We've provided homebuyer education and counseling for over 7,000 clients who've purchased 2,200 homes that we know of. It's a little tricky sometimes to track, particularly if folks go through education here and then buy a home in a different community or service area. But we typically have about 250 to 300 families go through our class every year. And we've got a counseling load of somewhere between 150 and 200 families at any given time that are sort of analyzing their financial situation and trying to figure out how to buy a home. And increasingly, we're working in a deeper way with people. Through that process, we're finding that there are folks that have more barriers now than, say, maybe 10 or 15 years ago in terms of glitches on their credit, in terms of debt that they have to overcome. And so we're starting to do some things that I'll talk about a bit later to try to level the playing field a bit for some of those people in the community. We've provided down payment assistance, again, for over 1,000 homes in the community. We're doing a bit less of that presently because a lot of the banks have down payment assistance programs. And so we find that our efforts at this point in time are better put toward getting people prepared to buy a house than just straight up down payment assistance in most instances. We've, through our lending department, rehabilitated over 1,500 units of housing, most of them single family homes. Duluth has the oldest housing stock in the state of Minnesota. And so if we're not taking steps to be preserving our housing, we're foolish. And so we're doing that work as best we can. It's tricky work. Oftentimes we're in second or third position with our mortgages, meaning, they're the riskiest loans that you can make. And so we're chipping away, just doing our bit to keep the housing stock in the community in as good a condition as possible. But nearly $24 million invested in that housing stock to date. We have a program called the Tenant Landlord Connection, which has assisted over 3,100 clients and prevented over 150 evictions. The mission of that particular program is to make sure that both tenants and landlords understand their rights and their responsibilities. So we provide education, we provide problem solving, and we provide mediation. And ideally, it's a program that comes from the middle. It's not a tenant advocacy program, because if we're able to help everybody understand their rights and their responsibilities, then a lot more stability occurs. Tenants really are laws stacked kind of against them, except for during the COVID eviction moratorium time. And so if they don't understand their responsibilities, they actually lose their rights. And so it's super important that we're making sure that tenants in particular understand their responsibilities in order to be stably housed. We've developed over 275 units of multifamily rental housing in 7 different projects throughout the community. Gateway Tower is one you might recognize. Steve O'Neill Apartments is another one. Those were partnerships with Center City Housing. Just recently, we created the Decker Dwellings off Decker Road near Schneiderman's Furniture, and it's 42 units of housing. And we'll soon be breaking ground on the Brewery Creek Apartments at the Last Chance Liquor Building and the former mobile station on 4th Street and 6th Avenue East. That'll be 52 units of housing. Here's a picture of Decker. Again, a 42 unit building, 3 stories, 11 3-bedroom units, 21 2-bedroom units, and 10 1-bedroom apartments. There's 4 of the units will serve high priority homeless families, and 5 will be served with folks with significant disabilities. Typically that's chronic and persistent mental health or chemical dependency sorts of issues. So pretty vulnerable population, as well as really, really good quality workforce housing for folks that work in the retail sector up near Miller Hill. So these lines of work have been, quite gratifying for us and also very time consuming. We need to keep doing this work. And one of the fun things about my job, having been on it for 23 years is that it's not the same job. Like we're constantly evolving and coming up with new ways of thinking about the work that we do and what the needs are in the community. And so what I'd like to do next is talk a little bit about, you know, where we're going to be going, and hopefully have some dialogue with you all about that, because I think, you know, you all as a community, I think, are great thinkers and are, you know, looking toward the future about, well, what could we be as a community? And that's what we like to think we're doing at One Roof as well. So following the tragic murder of George Floyd last year, we did a bunch of soul searching organizationally and have been reevaluating a fair bit about how do we want to be in the showing up in the diversity, equity, and inclusion realm. And increasingly, we're talking about justice when we're talking about that as well. But we're really aware that our as I talked about before, with the housing market not working for poor people, well, with regard to systemic racism and other challenges that have excluded historically disadvantaged populations from participating as fully in our economy as you know, the dominant culture has been able to, you know, we're stepping back and asking, what can we do to make a difference in that place? And so we've had a committee of staff and board members that have met diligently, and we've over the last year and a half, and have brought in some consultants to do an audit of our practices and looking at how we could do better. I'm pleased to say that with regard to most of our practices, we actually feel pretty proud of how we were doing before we started trying to double down and do more. So most of our efforts are going to be shifting toward what programming could we change, or how could we go deeper, as opposed to, you know, scrutinizing our hiring practices even further. You know, we found a few things we could do better, but largely the places for improvement, we think, are to do more and to go deeper. One of the ideas that came up in that process is we're starting a credit builder program that will sort of be a hybrid of our lending department and our education and counseling department. One of the things that we've noticed is that for Black, Indigenous, people of color households in particular, that they oftentimes have barriers as a result of the lack of generational wealth being passed down that make it such that the financial hole that they're in is big enough that it's hard to see the light at the top of it, and to stay motivated to keep moving forward toward fixing their financial situation and be in a position to be able to buy a house. So we're going to be using some of our lending capital to make very modest loans to households in this situation, and have, as a result of that, they're able to sort of use the proceeds from that loan to pay off some debt, and also to then make payments to us on those loans to be able to repair their credit. And so the combination of clearing that debt away and establishing a positive credit history will put them in a position to be able to buy a house sooner, and even, you know, helping them negotiate with folks that they owe money to, because if they have an old hospital debt and we're able to help them pay, say, a third of that off, oftentimes they're willing to forgive the rest of it if that can happen. And so that's an area where we feel like, you know, particularly for BIPOC households, we can make a significant difference that will help them and their family advance. Another thing that we've been doing is working intensively with the Fond du Lac Band. The Brewery Creek Apartments project will have 10 units of housing that will be reserved first come for Fond du Lac Band members as a result of the investment that the band made in that development. We've also been teaming up with them on community land trust homes, where they're investing in the homes and then we're making them available just to band members. We've done, I think, 8 or 10 houses in that way, and hope to continue to do more, and hope to team up and look for ways that we can continue to sort of you know, right some wrongs in that regard. And then the last piece that I want to sort of talk about is called the new model for housing people experiencing homelessness. As it sits right now, the list of people in the Duluth area that are single and homeless and eligible for sort of housing for folks that are homeless is over 500 people. And we're fortunate in a year's time here, if we're able to leverage funding from the state to add 40 or 50 units of housing for homeless people. And that's a good year. You know, we don't always have that good fortune. So, you know, looking at how homelessness has grown over the years and at what funding is available, we're only able to, you know, just make a bit of a tiny dent in that problem and help only a fraction of the people that need help. And so a year and a half ago, we gathered several providers: Chum, Center City, Human Development Center, Loaves and Fishes, the city, the county, a couple of architects, probably forgetting somebody, but it was a significant group of folks that we were meeting with monthly to sort of look at, well, is there a model of housing that would be less costly to build, that would have service provision, because a lot of the folks that have been homeless for quite a while, it's not enough to just sort of, you know, provide them a space, but they need some supports and they need some ongoing, you know, guidance and assistance to be able to sort of maintain stability. And so what we ended up coming up with is a design for a 12-unit building that has more like dormitory style rooms, but each room would have, while being very modest, would have a shower, a toilet, a sink, a small kitchenette, a bed. Much of it would be built in, but again, very, very small in size, and a two-story building with 12 units per building, a little bit of common space inside for gathering, and space for service providers to meet with clients, and for property management / maintenance staff to do what they need to do, and then some common space outside of the buildings as well. But we think this model has the capacity to build to provide housing for about half the cost of what the the typical state funded project is. And so we've been working real hard at the legislature this last session, and then subsequently presenting to folks at the city and folks at St. Louis County to be poised to take advantage of some of the American Rescue Plan funds, both from the city, the county, and the state, to build two of these buildings. And so we've teamed up with the Salvation Army, who's going to be providing services and operating of the buildings, and we're hopeful to get that funded in the near term and get into construction sometime next year with a couple of those buildings. We've just got to come up with new ways to address homelessness and housing affordability, because we're losing in mass the battle. You know, we're collectively, the providers are serving more people and developing more housing, but the problem is not getting smaller. And so we've got to think of new solutions. And then the last bit, which I actually don't have any talking points on, but I think increasingly we're going to be pushing on advocacy more, and it's going to be interesting to see how that evolves. But I think it will be both advocacy for resources for housing, but also, I'm hopeful, advocacy for policies that will make it such that we maybe don't need as much housing support. You know, if incomes were higher, if there was a different wealth distribution that happened, there would be less need for some of the programs that we're providing. And I think as a broader society and culture, if we're just trying to solve the housing problem by building more housing and providing more programming, we're probably going to take a lot longer to actually get to winning than if we address the problem from multiple facets. So we're going to be doing strategic planning starting this winter for our next 3 to 5 year plan. And I think it'll be very interesting to see where that goes that way. So that's kind of the end of my remarks, but the planned ones, and I'm really hoping to have some dialogue with folks. But I know from previous conversations with folks from your congregation that the need for affordable housing and for there to be good places for everyone in our community to live, so they have a platform to walk through the world and participate fully in our community, is something that you all understand. And so it's really nice to be here with you today. Thank you. Happy to answer questions and open for some dialogue.
Absolutely. Thank you so much, Jeff, for being here, and obviously all the work that you and the whole staff at One Roof does for our community. It's just an honor to learn and be educated about all those missing details.